New York City is absolutely crazy about sports, and yet it's never been host to the largest display of athletic accomplishment, the Summer Olympics. Despite making the shortlist for the 2012 games, New York hasn't attempted another bid since then, but I for one think that they have an amazing resume to present to the Olympic Committee. In my last video, I analyzed all the largest cities in the US and saw that New York not only was the best candidate from the states, but actually had a stronger resume than many former Olympic cities. That got me really excited to explore deeper what the games would look like here, so I created an entire master plan of New York's potential bid for the Olympics all by myself. So to start things off, we need to establish which events New York would hold. In the Olympics, there are two categories of events: core and optional. Core sports are the ones that we see at every Olympics, but the optional ones are where we get to have a little bit of fun and see sports like baseball, flag football, and breakdancing. Now, if I understand it correctly, we're allowed to pick 5 of these optional sports. So the ones I picked are baseball and softball, cricket, pickleball, gridiron football, but this time full contact, the way God intended it to be, and finally, dodgeball. Bro, just tell me that dodgeball wouldn't go incredibly hard in the Olympics. I could also hear out the argument for lacrosse, MMA, or motorsports, but I'd love to hear from you what you would want to see in the Olympics. So leave a comment if you have one in mind. Now it's time to figure out where specifically all of these events are going to be held. I think the best way for me to present it is district by district, and there's 8 of them, so buckle up, we've got a lot to go through. The nucleus of the New York Olympics would be in Lower Manhattan. The Olympic Village would be here, as well as Madison Square Garden and Javits Convention Center to hold several of the indoor sports. Central Park would also be the finish line for the triathlon and marathon. Coleman Park would be a really cool spot for skateboarding, with an existing facility located directly under the Manhattan Bridge for street events, and there's plenty of room in the rest of the park to build a bowl for the park events. For climbing, I wanted to pick a spot with a cool backdrop, so I decided on Governor's Island, which has an awesome view of the Statue of Liberty. And finally, the last venue in Lower Manhattan I chose was West Side Stadium, which was the first proposal for the Olympic Stadium in the 2012 bid, but it got shot down for the usual reasons. You know, public funding, traffic impacts, all that fun stuff. But if we want the Olympics in New York, we're gonna have to find a way to include the West Side Stadium somehow. We just gotta figure it out, man. Add some more lanes to the roads around there. That seems to fix everything. The next largest district would be Flushing, where there's a whole slew of events. Baseball prelims would be held at Citi Field, tennis and pickleball would take place at the Billie Jean King Tennis Center, the brand new Etihad Park could be modified temporarily to host swimming with the nearby Flushing Meadows Aquatic Center for water polo, and the 2012 bid even proposed having archery at the Unisphere and the canoe slalom course being built at the Fountain of the Planets. In Upper Manhattan and the Bronx, we have Yankee Stadium, which would obviously be the spot for baseball finals. The Harlem River also has a long enough straightaway for rowing, and Greg Marius Court is possibly the coolest outdoor court I've ever seen in my life, so this clearly is the spot for 3v3 basketball. We also have Columbia University's Wien Stadium for football prelims. And finally, the 2012 bid called for Pelham Bay to be the site for shooting. Brooklyn has the Barclays Center for basketball and gymnastics, Domino Park for beach volleyball, and one of my favorites, the Brooklyn Paramount for fencing. The absolute aura of watching 2 guys just going at it with swords here would be immeasurable. Staten Island also has a good handful of events courtesy of the 2012 bid, mainly by repurposing Fresh Kills Park to host most of the cycling events. Mountain biking, BMX, and even building a velodrome here. Equestrian events would be held at Greenbelt Nature Center, and softball would take place at SIUH Park, which has a pretty sweet view of the city. Across the Hudson in New Jersey, we have a handful of other major venues. MetLife Stadium would host the soccer, rugby, and football finals, Sports Illustrated Stadium would hold field hockey, and the Prudential Center would be the home for volleyball. Respectfully though, we need to keep the number of events in New Jersey at a minimum. There's a good number of events on Long Island and Nassau County as well. UBS Arena would hold dodgeball and wrestling, Nassau Coliseum could host handball, and Bethpage Black would be my favorite pick for golf. There are definitely other good courses around the city to pick from, like Winged Foot in Westchester, Shinnecock Hills in Southampton, and Baltusrol in New Jersey. But the fact that Bethpage Black is publicly owned, close to the city center and is one of the most challenging courses in the world is what made it stand out the most to me. The last venue in Nassau I chose was Jones Beach for marathon swimming and the triathlon start. Obviously we can't have it held close to the city where the water is borderline toxic sludge, but there was an Ironman race held at Jones Beach in 2023, so I'm hoping that means it's safe enough out there for swimmers. Around Jamaica Bay we have 2 more locations. Breezy Point would hold sailing and Marine Park would be the location for cricket. Now I know there was a temporary venue built on Long Island in 2024 for the Cricket World Cup, which we could certainly do again for the Olympics, but I'm more interested in there being the availability of a permanent venue in New York by the time the Olympics come around. MI New York is the city's Major League Cricket team and one of the better franchises in the country at that. The MLC currently plays all their matches at just 3 venues in different parts of the country, but the long-term goal is to build a home stadium for each team. And according to The Guardian, MI New York identified Marine Park as the spot they would want theirs. With cricket growing in popularity in the US, I wouldn't be so surprised to see a pristine cricket stadium being built there in the not so distant future. As jam-packed as the New York metro area is with sports venues, there are just a handful of sports that we have to hold outside of the city. For starters, soccer prelims will need to be played in other nearby cities. That's nothing new, pretty much every Olympics does this, and luckily we're in a good part of the country where we don't have to travel that far for large enough venues. Highmark Stadium in Buffalo, SHI Stadium in Piscataway, Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, and Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia all hold over 50,000 fans and are a short plane ride away at worst. Westchester County Center is a pretty nice and historic small arena that would be the perfect size for badminton. Up the road a little more is West Point, home to Michie Stadium, which could also serve as a site for football prelims if needed, but with it being directly adjacent to the campus of the U.S. Military Academy, security would have to be extremely tight if games were held here. And finally, for surfing, probably the most realistic thing is just to hold it somewhere on the West Coast where it's more popular, but the surf culture up in New York isn't non-existent, so what if we held it somewhere on Long Island? Montauk at the very northern tip seems to have the best waves in the area, but from my research, it seems to be pretty hit or miss, and the best time of year to surf is either in the fall during hurricane season or in the winter, so having it here in the summer would almost definitely be lower in quality than just playing it safe and doing it somewhere in the Pacific. So after all that, here's our final map of all the events at the New York Summer Olympics. I really enjoyed making this video and I hope you enjoyed watching it too. If you did, then I'd really love it if you subscribed, but if you didn't like this video, then well, you can just go to New Jersey and never come back. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there.
Glenn on the drive, gets inside, banks it in, wow! Manning's gonna heave one, how in the world? Oh my goodness, that may be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Tiger Woods halfway to the slam and his second U.S. Open championship. And at Bethpage, he is now the People's Champion